Section 10.4 is measures of central tendency and variation. So another word for central tendency that you guys are very familiar with is the word average. And variation would be simply how something is spread apart from the average. Okay, my goal is to finish central tendency today. If we don't, you'll have it on a video, of course. We won't touch variation. You'll have a video for that one for sure. All right, so there are three measures of central tendency that we're going to talk about. The first one is the one that you think of when I say the word average. It's actually the mean. The mean, also called the arithmetic mean, is the average of all the values. We find it by adding values together and then dividing by how many values we had. So this is what Canvas does when it figures out your homework average, right? It adds all the homeworks together. Of course, it drops some because I tell it to. But it adds all the homeworks together. It divides by the number of homeworks, and then it tells you your homework average, and there's a column for that in Canvas. And there's a column for your exam average and so forth. Adds all the exams together, divides by the number of exams, gives you your average. So that's called the mean. The second type of central tendency is called the median. The median is the middle value. And it's found by listing all the numbers in numerical order. If there are an odd number of values, there will be one value in the middle. But if there are an even number of values, you sort of have two middle values that you then find the mean of, or the average of the two. So can you imagine if I had all of you stand up in class from shortest to tallest, right? And if there's an odd number of us, we would just sort of move from the outer, into the inner, right? Marking people off. And right there in the middle, there'd be one person, and they would be the median, where 50% would be below and 50% would be above. You guys with me? And we could do the same thing if there's two people, though. So there's two people in the middle, and they're slightly different in heights. I'd just say, hey, what's your height? Hey, what's your height? We'd add them together, divide by 2. Okay, so that's how we find the median, the 50% mark. The mode is the number or numbers, because it could be more than one, that occur most frequently. So let's say, for instance, I wanted to figure out what the average age was of students in this classroom. If you all just threw out your ages, I might find that, like 18 out of 20 of you are all 21, but then we have a couple of people who are off of that. Well, it would be fair to say that 21. I mean, most of you are 21, so 21, the mode, might be the most reasonable way to answer that question. My students are mostly 21, or whatever the number is. Okay, so mode is the number that occurs most frequently, and it could have more than one. If there's two modes, we call it bimodal, that kind of thing, okay? So we're going to find the mean, median, and mode for this set of numbers. So the mean. What did it say I'm going to do to find the mean? Add them together. So 18 plus 22 plus 22 plus 17 plus 30 plus 18 plus 12. And after I add them, what am I going to do? Divide by 7. There are 7 values, you bet. Okay, so somebody tell me what you get when you add all the values on top together. I don't have that written down. What? 139. And if you take 139 divided by 7, what do you have? 19.9. Okay, so in terms of work, what do I expect to see? Well, you have two options. You can either show me this step that's underlined in red, or you can show me this step that's underlined in blue. I don't care which one, but show me one or the other, and that's the work that you need to justify the rest of everything that you did in your calculator to get to 19.9. Sound good? All right. How about the median? Well, for the median, we need to write them all in order, much like me telling you I was going to stand people up in height order. So we start with the smallest or the largest. It doesn't even really matter, but one of the two extremes. I tend to start with the smallest. So here's 12, 17, 18, 18, 22, 22, and 30. And if you're sort of like, ticking them off the ends, like there's 12 and 30, they both get marked off, and you're working your way inward, right? So here's 22 and 17, they get marked off. And whether you don't necessarily have to show these, but this is what you're doing, counting your way inward. Eventually on this list, you end up with one value in the middle because there was an odd number of numbers. So our median here would be 18, which is not necessarily equal to the mean, right? And this time it wasn't. And then the last one is mode. And to do mode, we write down any numbers that occur the most frequently. Sometimes it's one number, sometimes it's no numbers. If they all occur one time, it wouldn't work, right? But on this one, there are two numbers that occur twice. So the modes are 18 and 22. So we would actually say that this is bimodal because they both occur twice. Any question on that? Yep, Kurt.
What if on the mode there's only like a number that doesn't repeat and they're all one? Would that ever happen?
It could, and then you just say there's no mode.
Oh.
Yep, so if all the numbers are just occurring one time, or maybe they all occur two times even, right? But they all occur the exact same number of times, there's no mode.
Okay.
But there will always be a median and a mean. That will never be the case for those two, but it could be no mode. All right, let's take a look at an example. There's a couple of these. The mean score on a set of 20 tests is 75. What is the sum of the 20 test scores? Now, if you'll take a look back at what we did to find the mean before, is that we took the sum, right? We added them all up. We divided by the number of values. In this case, it'll be number of scores. And when we did that, we got the average. Does that seem reasonable? Because this isn't really like an equation, but it's just the process that we did. So if you take a look at the process that we did for finding a mean or an average, they're actually giving you a little bit of different information this time. So which pieces of these three informational pieces do they give you? The number of values and the average, you bet. So the sum is what I don't know, I'll find, but how many values was I given? How many does it say I have? 20. And what does it say the average is? 75. So can I find the sum? Absolutely. What would I need to do? Yeah, I just multiply by 20, right? So what is 75 times 20? 1,500. So it's a variation on the idea of average. I have one more central tendency question, and then we'll be right where I wanted us to be. This is a mean question as well. It says the mean weight of 7 linesmen on a team is 230 pounds. The mean weight of the 4 backfield members is 190 pounds. What is the mean weight of the 11-person team? So this is football, right? Okay. This is football, and you might be looking at that and go, I don't know anything about football. I don't know very much either, and you don't need to answer the question. But take a look at what's happening. It says that we have the mean of the 7 linesmen is 230 pounds. So we have 7 people who on average weigh 230 pounds. How can I find out how much they weigh together, all together? Multiply those. So I could take my 7 and multiply it by the 230, and that's 7 of my players. But I have some more players. I have the lightweights, right? How many of them do I have? I have 4 of them, and how much do they each weigh on average? 190. Pretty good so far. Okay, so this is the total weight of the football team. That's what we just found out. Well, of this particular group of 11 people on the football team. So how can I then find the average when I consider them all together as a group instead of in their individual little pieces? Right. I can add those up, and then I can divide by the total number of players, which is 11. So if you were to take 7 times 230 plus 4 times 190, and then divide all of that by 11, what do you get? Is it 6? I have 5 written down, but I might.
Oh, yeah.
What is it? It's 5? Okay. And we'll go with 1 decimal for all of our answers here in chapter 10, 10-4, whatever, okay? And it's pounds, right? Okay, does that seem reasonable? Well, it better be between 190 and 230, and it is, so that's good. And it should be a little closer to the 230 because there was more of them at the weight 230 than at the 190, and it is. So this is a very reasonable answer. Any questions on that? All right.